purchased. And then for Bolsonaro, we were able, also for the first time in history, to be able to access the actual processes of purchase, which include the justification, the invoices, all the explaining they had to do. And it was all just in paper inside a department in the presidency in Brasilia, the capital of Brazil. We had to actually buy a scanner and manually open the files and scan them. Unfortunately, they would not give, like all the documents are in no order whatsoever. They're just like thrown in these big boxes without any organization of date or theme or anything. And they would just give us the folders randomly. For the first month, they weren't really paying attention on us. I think, well, there's a lot of things going on. It was the first month of Lula back to power, and we were just getting the full documents and scanning them ourselves. At one point, they realized that maybe we shouldn't be allowed to have access to all the information, and that there were actual sensible data on like CIA official, the Brazilian CIA and FBI officials, their names and stuff like that. So they started checking every single page and redacting them like live manually. And then they would scan it and then print it with the redaction on and then give it to us. So that completely slowed down the process, which was already pretty slow. And then after a month and a half of this, we going there every day with partnering journalists from Brasilia. At the time, we didn't have anyone working in the capital. We had to hire them and get these partners. And then one day they just said, we're done with you. You're taking too much of our time. We don't like this. And just barred us from accessing the space. And they said they would do it themselves. But so far, almost a year later, they haven't, which is very typical. In terms of how difficult it was, Muckrock had to like accompany us through this. It was very hard because, like I said, there was no sequencing whatsoever of the pages. It was almost 10,000 pages that we didn't have any numbers on them. It was super hard to like find any logic between them. And then we had to use DocumentCloud to try to extract any value from those. Another problem was that besides the actual papers of the invoices, the spreadsheets that they would give us, every time they gave us a new spreadsheet, the numbers would change completely. Even for like President Lula's first term, which was 20 years ago, every time they sent us a spreadsheet, the numbers changed. And we were like, are you not done with counting the expenditures from 20 years ago? Like, what's happening? And so basically, it's just a huge mess. Not even the government has any idea of how this money was being used. And so now I'm giving it over to Igor so he can explain how DocumentCloud was essential to give any value for this. Otherwise, it would just been like completely lost work because it would be impossible to do anything with all these pages.
Well, our biggest challenge after scanning the corporate card invoices was the data extraction process. In other words, how do I convert more than 7,000 pages, which are in image format, into data that can be accessed, filtered, and analyzed? So, using DocumentCloud, we were able to easily remove blank pages and adjust the rotation of the pages with the use of add-ons in the platform, as you can see in the second image. It's really easy to use. And in the next, please, I think we have, And after that initial treatment, we applied different OCR methods from companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Google to turn these images into text. And even when the quality of the invoices wasn't that great, these different methods, these OCR methods, we were able to convert it to plain text. After that step of converting the images to text, we started to apply some regex. And we were able to perform searches to extract patterns like dates, names, and monetary values. And for example, we were able to extract all the receipts from ATM withdrawals and informations about who the card holders were when these withdrawals were made. So the possibility of applying different OCR methods and carrying out searches using regular expressions were key factors that enabled our team to carry out these thematic searches on those documents and generate insights from the data. Also, using the tool allowed us to better organize the files of the project. For example, we created a document containing only the ATM withdrawals receipts. And of course, one of the greatest results of the project has been that anyone now is able to successfully carry out a complex search for these invoices. You can search in them as you would search for text. And we did the same thing to extract the sale numbers with regex. And I believe that DocumentCloud is an incredible tool because you can apply all these complex techniques without the need of prior programming knowledge. I mean, the whole OCR application process was done with 2 to 3 clicks of the mouse. So it's extremely user-friendly. Of course, it would have taken much more time, and we probably would need a much larger team without the tool. So that's everything from my end. Now I'll give the floor over my colleague Maria.
Maria, you're muted.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was trying to check. So like Igor said, it was like essential to get all of this, and also Sanjin really helped us through some of like batch doing whatever add-ons we are using. And then since we had so many pages, we had to organize them into projects. So we separated the invoices between the presidency and the vice presidency, which we also had access to. Like Igor said, the ATM withdrawals, they were very important because it's a second step on using public money without any oversight, because not only the corporate card using was secret, when they just withdraw money from the ATM, then we have absolutely no idea of what they spent it on. So it's just like a huge space for even more corruption, which I'm sure you are aware it's a big problem in Brazil. We also made a specific project for Bolsonaro's trips to the beach, which were very common, and we'll show a little bit more like on the next slides. And then, like Igor said, the amazing thing is you can transform like stuff like this, which is very hard to read, not searchable as an image, with this like problems of the redacting and other issues, into something that can be like searchable by keywords. And knowing the Bolsonaro, we would search for things like picanha, which is a very famous Brazilian type of steak, jet skis, which are a favorite of the president, ex-president, the names of people that are being investigated by federal police, including Mauro Cid, which is someone like it was Bolsonaro's personal helper, and is also having problems in the US at this point, since after January 8th, our version of January 6th, they flew to the United States to kind of escape. We were also searching, like, of course, these are like more fun terms that we were searching, but then very specific political issues in Brazil were being searched and helped doing all the news pieces that we'll show you in a little bit. It's also amazing, the embedding function, the features on DocumentCloud that we use in Fiquem Sabendo's website. For anything regarding PDFs, we use the DocumentCloud embedding function, but we also taught the reporters how to do it. We would like actually give them the exact script so they could plug into their websites. Like most reporters are not much savvy, and their CRMs are not great, but the function works amazingly, and they could do it in a great way. We had to do a lot of corrections in the data, from basic stuff like inflation. Brazil has very fluctuating inflation, and for over 20 years of the period we were analyzing, it was we had to change a lot of the values. But basically, it's over 200 million reais of secret spending in this period. We realized that many of the employer identification number, I think that's the corresponding CNPJs in the US, they were broken, and so we had to correct them, and then in a new spreadsheet with them corrected, like I said, just like from one spread to the other, you have 13 million reais more that would come up, and then we would help the government make the correction on the official website. So we're actually helping them with like the history of payments. We had to do loads of freedom of information requests to fill in the blanks. So we didn't have, for example, who were the card holders. There were a lot of missing information from the vice presidency, and we had to like ask for specific administrative procedures to understand some of the expenses. There were over 3,000 news pieces produced in Brazil all over the country, the major newspapers using the invoices organized through DocumentCloud. We would either give the reporters access to DocumentCloud, and the ones that were less tech savvy, we would like help them directly. But all the major legacy media and independent media used our project, and also like BBC and other international organizations that work in Brazil. We have some fun purchases that were some viral publishing from Metrópolis, for example, explaining how Bolsonaro used the government's money to party during Carnival, even though it's not supposed to be used for private events or anything private. It's supposed to be just reimbursement for official acts of the president. We also covered his splurge at the beach, loads of trips to the beach near São Paulo, in amazing supermarket expenses like 200 kilos of rump steak, over like $10,000 spent at one time in the bakery, a lot of money spent on gasoline and diesel for his jet skiing fun activities. We also showed like the main political columnist at O Globo, which is one of the 3 major legacy print media in the country, published a few columns based on DocumentCloud's projects, and it showed, for example, that Bolsonaro, like the third largest contractor paid with corporate cards in Bolsonaro's administration, was a company sanctioned by the US, the Japanese government, and other countries because of their involvement with shady businesses. And we were just paying them unknowingly. We also have an advocacy branch at Fiquem Sabendo, which combine the journalistic power of spreading the word and getting the public aware with the DocumentCloud invoices, and the like the accounting controller agency asked the superior, it's hard to translate, but like the major oversight agencies in Brazil to investigate the use of the corporate card using our invoices, because they don't have access to that information either. So the DocumentCloud collection was their first window into all this money. The Ministry of Management and Innovation in Public Services open a public consultation to write a new decree to regulate the use of corporate cards, meaning that they open to society to give its opinion on how this should change from now on, which is like a major impact for future generations. And now the government is reformulating the whole system for controlling these expenses. This is a picture from the Minister of Communications on the day after we released the first batch of documents, having to do some explaining, which is also great impact. The Attorney General's agency for the federal government has asked some reimbursement of undue expenses that we showed during our work. And Fiquem Sabendo, after we did some complaints and requests, the public bank is trying to make changes to be able to publish the information at the end of each year and not after the 4 years of the whole term when there's nothing else that we can do. Of course, like we would like all the expenditures to be public the day they are done, but considering all the arguments on security concerns, getting it like at the end of every year would be already a big step, because we could actually hold them accountable while they were in office. So another something that we do close to Muckrock is inspired by FOIA Wiki, which is the Wikipedia for freedom of information that Muckrock was one of the responsible organizations for creating in the US. We did that version in Brazil called WikiLi, which is the acronym for our FOIA. And we published a few tutorials on the whole business card expenditures. It's hard for us to say this word. And exactly on how to use DocumentCloud to do this. It's especially important because most Brazilians do not speak English. So we try to make this bridge on how to use the platform, even though they don't speak the main language that DocumentCloud is on. So like through exhausting them, we actually managed to force them to take responsibility for digitizing the documents. We are still asking them to be more proactive because it's taking way too long, but it should not have been our responsibility in the first place to go with a small scanner do it. That's not the citizens' job, it's the government's job. So it was great that we were able to make them be accountable for this. And we continue to try to make this better every day. And this whole project was awarded the 2 main data journalism awards in the country, and also was shortlisted for the Sigma Awards, which is the leading data journalism award in the world. There's only, like, out of 600, there was only 9 projects from Latin America, and this one, supported by the McGraw Foundation, was one of them. And I think we end in time to make this an open discussion and talk about other possibilities. There's also here, we can send on the chat a link for this video showing the other works of Fiquem Sabendo. I invite you all to check out our website. It's in Portuguese, but you can use Google Translate. This video is in English, and there's also a few other posts on IGNet and the Latin Journalism Review about our work, which are in English. We can also send a link on the chat. And yeah, I would like to get back to the video. Let me see. All right. Do you want to maybe comment some of the difficulties we had and how you helped us?
Yeah, it was a really messy document set that we started with. There was, of course, like just empty pages, but also the pages with just like black streaks on them that was from copying or somebody redacting a document and it being on the back side of the document. Everything was out of order. Receipts were mixed with like expenditure reports and justifications. Yeah, it was pretty chaotic, and none of it was sequential. And so yeah, we needed to use like different methods to kind of eliminate irrelevant pages, make things actually readable using OCR, and then like breaking up the documents and merging them into bigger documents, and then again breaking them off into smaller documents. It was like it was a very interesting. It was probably one of the messiest document sets that I had interacted with. Definitely from my experience with other Gateway grantee projects, and it was definitely a strong showcasing of what we can do with automation. So I appreciate the shout outs for some of the add-ons that we used. I do have a couple questions. If other folks have questions, feel free to drop it in the Q&A section or in the chat. And then I have a couple questions just off the bat. When you took a look at like the spreadsheets for the month by month corporate card spendings, did you guys notice any like outliers, any noticeable trends or differences between the administrations, since it does like span 20 years? Anything that like, if there was like a particular month with like a particular event that might have spurred an increase in spending or something like that that you would like to mention?
Yes. So one point is that, like, contrary to what people would expect, well, I don't know, like, depends on if they're liberals or Republicans, but Lula spent more money using the corporate card. Of course, he had 2 terms, but if you divide by the period, he's the one that spent the most. Like, depending on which side you are, you would expect that Bolsonaro would have spent more. So that was pretty interesting. In terms of dates, Isabel, who's here, she did like the graphs. Maybe Igor, you can pull out the graphs from the periods, aquelas planilhas mastigadas, aquela pasta de planilhas mastigadas que você tem. To see, like, try to see the days. There was one very interesting day of a huge spike, like Bolsonaro's day that he spent the most was the day that he did a motorcycle parade in like like a protest to him losing the election, which like was millions of people, well, not millions, hundreds of thousands of people doing a motorcycle parade. And it was very problematic and polemic at the time, because as the president at that time, he should not be doing like campaigning events. And even worse was the fact that he was using the money supposed to be used for reimbursement for official acts of the president on like a private campaign event. And that was like filled with complex and problematic organizations in Brazil, like you're also used to in some of Trump's rallies.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. If you want to display the graph, you can, if you have it up. If not, we can get back to it later. Feel free to share screen, Igor. If not, it's, oh, you got it. Yeah, so this is what I was looking at, and I was really curious about the spikes when I was looking at it, like what happened in that month in like between 2008 or 2009 that was like super, super big.
I think this one we tried to figure out, but we couldn't. Maybe Isabel remembers something that I'm not remembering, but we checked like with different of course, at that time I was still in like middle school, so I don't have the memory. Maybe even elementary, well, no, middle school at that time. So we try to understand, but if you think it's like it's during the global economic crisis, 2008, Lula traveled a lot during that period, but like we couldn't, I don't remember, but I think we couldn't like exactly figure out what was that that happened. You can also see how much it dropped during the pandemic on like 2020. It has a huge drop. So it's pretty interesting. If we had more time, and also there was something that was very hard was the fact that the timing is very important in journalism, right? So the first year of Lula's presidency, it was not on any journalist's priority to look back at Bolsonaro at that time. There was a lot of things happening in the first year of Lula. And so it took a lot of like conversations and convincing to get them to actually look through the documents, because they were like, yeah, that's like maybe before the next election, if Bolsonaro is actually running again, we can come back and look at that, but that's not on our editor's priority. What helped a little bit at the end was when the federal police finally started like doing some actual searches on Bolsonaro's house and his kids and all of that kind of surged interest. But it was also so many like documents that were being released by the police that it was like they had their hands full with the new documents.
Yeah, you were being flooded. Yeah, that makes sense for timeliness of documents. It's just curious. I asked if you've noticed anything just because I looked at the graph and I was like, this is interesting. But that makes sense with the 2008, 2009 recession, that there could be some kind of spur of he might have to meet with more people because of the economic impacts of the recession. And yeah, it kind of makes sense. My next question for you all, what do you think is like the most impactful story that came out from this project? What would you say would be the story that you were most proud of? It could have been one that you authored or others authored. I think the story about the U.S. sanctioned companies being one of the top recipients from Bolsonaro was super interesting, even though it wasn't timely. And yeah, it kind of tied into recent events because the company iJet Global was actually sanctioned for sending drones to Iran, which were, I think, later propped up in Ukraine. And so I thought that was super interesting. But I'm curious to see what you all have for an answer for that.
I don't think I have like one favorite, because it was like none of them were like extensive researches on everything. The collection of each of the pieces that were put by the different, like the 3,000 pieces, I think it's what builds the picture. There's some pretty interesting ones, like he would spend 1,000 reais every 30 minutes, which is a lot of money. um, that the fact that like there is this, oh yeah, it's very interesting. There's this bakery next to the president's house that is the place that they spend the most money out of the 20 years. So it's like they would just go there and spend like $5,000 at once, every day buying something. I don't know, like the biggest pizza parties for everybody. I don't know how they were so much money on bakeries. They are pretty cheap. Like it's very, very cheap. And it's interesting because Brasilia is well known for not having any bakeries whatsoever. So they could find one and make it the biggest spender of over 20 years. So it was the bakery, the supermarkets, the big supermarkets in Brazil. So it's a lot of food, different from, I heard one time Michelle Obama saying that they had to pay for their own food in the White House. Like they pay for the jelly and all of that. That does not happen in Brazil. They were all just using our money to buy whatever they want. It's usually like pretty big scandals when like that kind of hump stake happens, because for the normal citizen, it's very hard to connect with like the huge expenses. But when they see like an amount of meat that they could never dream of being purchased, that really like strikes something in their heads. There's a big scandal going on right now. I don't know if you're aware, but there is tragic flooding in the south of Brazil. We have 3 members of our team there. It's like very, very, very sad and devastating, and it's going to cost billions to rebuild. There's people without food everywhere in the state, and the military personnel just open a purchase for like shrimp and other like very like
luxurious
like
food, yeah.
luxurious stuff, spending millions on buying this kind of stuff. So Brazil still has a long way to go on kind of like controlling this, whatever makes sense. Bolsonaro also spent a lot of money buying Viagra during his presidency for all the military people, which was crazy. They even said it was because it helped with some eye diseases. We were like, yeah, okay.
I think there's a small freeze. That's okay.
Yes.
No problem. We'll wait for
known for an exact number. Let's say something while I try to fix this internet.
Voltou.
you're reconnected.
Maria?
Oi.
Oi, voltou.
I will stop my video to hopefully lower bandwidth.
No, it's okay. It's my like the internet is not really great here, but you know, we try. No, yeah, I'm not being able to open anything on my computer, so like I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's the collective building of all these pieces that will create actual change, because it shows people that it's just an absolute mess.
Totally. Yeah. I understand the sum of the reporting being more impactful than like a single story. That makes a lot of sense. My last question for you all is, what is next for Fiquem Sabendo? What investigations of yours should we be looking out for in the coming months that you're excited about? You mentioned the flooding that's happening in southern Brazil currently. Do you have any work focusing on that? Yeah, kind of just opening a floor for you in the last couple minutes of our meeting together here, just to kind of talk about what kind of other work you'll be working on in the future.
So for the flooding, we are about to publish an article on how FOIA, is my internet terrible?
No, you're all good.
Okay. I'm gonna hold the computer here. So like showing how freedom of information is essential to prepare the cities for the like tragic events that will come more at every time due to climate change. Our next very big project that is already going on is we're opening for the first time in history all the payments of salaries to the people that work in state-owned companies. I know that this is less common in the US, like from what I know, it's not like you don't have so many publicly owned companies, but that's a big thing in Latin America.
It's a big thing in
Like,
Europe too, I know, so yeah.
yeah, like the big oil companies, they're all like state owned, and they were just like pretending they were not public servants for the past, I don't know, 100 years. And we finally, after years of discussing on the oversight agencies, we were able to get a very important decision saying that all of them, including the ones that are publicly traded on the stock market, have to publish their salaries. It's over like 100 companies, and it's going to be like a huge fight, especially for the big ones. They are bringing all the big lawyers against us, but I think we will prevail. Let's hope.
I
And
hope
there's
so.
also a lot of work for Igor as the data scientist, because all this information comes in completely different patterns and like not comparable, and so
Yeah.
he's very important work on that. It's also important because not just the salaries, but we can see the gender of the people. And one of Lula's priorities during the campaign promises was that he would put more women in power, and like try to make the numbers of all the employees even. So we also have a way to monitor that. And something that we will be maybe discussing forward with MuckRock, because DocumentCloud would be essential for it, is the fact that we want to bring back the No Secrecy project, which was one of our first projects as Fiquem Sabendo in 2018, 2019. Our FOIA is very recent. It's completing 12 years old on Thursday. And so supposedly the eternal secret has ended in the country with our FOIA Act. And then they could like put documents under secrecy for 5, 15, or 25 years.
Wow.
Since we're only 12 years of FOIA, only the documents that were put under 5-year secrecy could be released at this point. So
Mhm.
when we did it in 2019, it was like the 6th year of FOIA. We had like batches of documents. We had, at the time, we didn't have any money, like zero money.
Funding,
And
yeah.
so we got volunteers in the country to actually ask for the documents, because once the time is over, we don't have any access. They just publish a list with like the number of the document and the date. We don't know the title, we don't know what it's regarding, we don't know anything. And so we were the first ones in the country to realize that like this period was over. We asked the national agencies to actually give us the actual documents. It had to be done like in a ridiculously low amount. Like they would say like, oh, you can only ask 15 documents at a time. And then when we made the calculation, it would take us 93 years to ask FOIA
Yeah.
requests for the ones that like had ended in 1 year. It was crazy. Just for one agency, just for the Marine Corps. Um, and since then, like at the time, we got so many documents. They were probably very important, but we were able to get through like 0.01% of them, because there was nothing like a document cloud at the time, and it was impossible for us to search all the like images and PDFs. And so we're really eager to try this again. Now that we have like a team and we have actual technology that can make it work, and see some interesting things. At the time, we were able to reveal very important stuff, like showing that the Brazilian FBI had infiltrated in the social protests during 2013.
Wow.
They infiltrated, like they had put fake students in the student movements, and
Mhm.
like a lot of crazy stuff. And then, just like we, inspired by Muckrock, we sued the FBI and the CIA of Brazil, because they decided that they were not under the law, which is very typical of them.
Right.
And so they said they would not give us the documents, even though the period of their secrecy had ended. And just 2 weeks ago, after 4 years, the justice system said that we lost, even though it's just a basic like ABC reading of the law.
Yeah.
But a lot of corporativism in this, so
Mhm.
we're gonna try again. But there's still like loads of agencies with important documents that we want to go back, ask them, and try to structure it in Document Cloud to get the important stuff out.
Absolutely. Very excited to hear about possible future collaborations. I'll get back to you a little bit about that after. I just want to open up the Q&A to see if anybody else has any other questions. Otherwise, we're almost here at the top of the hour, and we can wrap up. But again, I want to thank both of you for being here with me today to talk about this very exciting project. It's been great to see this project kind of bloom, even through some periods of stagnation. So I'm very proud to see where this project has gone. If anyone has any other questions, please drop them in the Q&A. Otherwise, we'll call it an evening.
And while we see if anyone wants to chat, I have to say how thankful we are to your help. It wouldn't have been possible to get through not only the difficulties imposed by the government and the documents, but our own very hard periods institutionally. And you were always very patient and interested in helping us through, in like welcoming the new people that would come into the project. So it was very helpful and very nice to work with you.
Thank you very much. I'll give you another minute for any questions to drop, and then yeah, thank you for presenting for us today. Yeah, and looking forward to future collaborations as well.
And I'll share those slides in our Slack channel also for someone that couldn't
Absolutely.
make the time. And please, if anyone that is like a grantee or something that needs help, not that we're anywhere experts, but we can share whatever we learn through the way with anyone that needs it.